The E4 square, the D4 square, which to move first? It's always the question. Welcome back. This is the basics tutorial here. Today we're going to be covering different things like the goals, value of the pieces, what you might think of to help make the right move, chess notation. We'll kind of demonstrate all this in a mini game, and then we'll have a drawing and then kind of the end game. What happens if nobody can move, right? So thank you for joining us on this journey here on this chess journey. We are going through chess.com's basic learning, so kind of learn the basics, and you're joining with me, your humble host, Chris, and I look forward to joining in with you guys. All right, let's begin.
Let's review the key moves in chess: captures, check, and checkmate. This is how you build a lead and win the game.
Well, I guess that's always good. Fundamentals.
Which piece can white capture?
I'd say he can capture this one.
Good choice. White captures the bishop.
Simple as that.
White's king is in check. How can you get to safety? Nice move. The king is safe there.
For now.
The black bishop is checking white's king. What is white's best way out of check? Good choice. Capturing the bishop removes the attack on your king.
Sometimes, again, you could always evade, but there's always a better one.
White can check with the queen or with the rook. Which one is checkmate?
Well, if he stays there, he could obviously take it, so it can't be that one.
Nice work. That's checkmate.
Yeah, again, if you move the rook here in the red square, he just take it, so that's a terrible move.
White has several checks, but only one is mate. Can you find it?
Okay. Well, let's see. Move it up here.
Checkmate. Well done.
So, checkmate's the end of the game. Guess that solves that one, right? Let's go to the next one. Oh, that's right. It wants me to zoom out. I'm not ready for that yet.
Each chess piece has a value to help decide which captures are best. A pawn is worth 1 point, a knight is worth 3, a bishop is also worth 3, a rook is worth 5, the queen is worth 9, and the king is worth the whole game.
Boom. A video to this? Watch the video.
In chess, you are constantly capturing pieces and making trades on the chessboard. But how do you know if you should capture or trade? Obviously, the queen is the most valuable piece. But what about the other pieces? Fortunately, there is an easy way to evaluate trades based on a numerical value for the pieces. Let's take a look. Each pawn is worth 1. You can think of this as $1 if it helps.
I don't know if $1 really helps. Just simple one.
The knights are worth 3, and the bishops are worth 3. So basically, the knights and bishops are the same, though in many positions, bishops are better, and in some positions, knights are better. Rooks are worth 5 points, and queens are worth 9. Well, what about the king? It's worth the whole game. Let's review that. Pawns are worth 1, knights are worth 3, bishops are also worth 3, rooks are worth 5, and the queen is worth 9. Let's take a look at a few positions and decide whether it is a good or bad idea to trade pieces. In this position, does white have any trades? Yes, white could trade a rook for a queen. Is this a good trade?
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is a great trade for white. White gave up a 5-point piece, the rook, for a 9-point piece, the queen. White gained 4 points from that trade. In this position, white has the chance to trade a rook for a knight. Is this a good trade?
No.
White gives up a 5-point piece, capturing a 3-point piece. It's not such a good trade. White loses 2 points out of that trade. Let's take a look at one more position. In this position, white can play rook takes d8, trading a rook for a rook. Is this a good trade?
Equal.
An even trade isn't bad. And let's say the bishop recaptures, offering a bishop trade. And another even trade happens, bishop for bishop. After all of these trades, white did not win any material. Both sides traded one rook and one bishop each. Notice white was up a pawn before all these trades happened, so white's position is still pretty good. But was there a better way white could have handled this position? Let's take a look. When you have a chance to capture or trade pieces, remember to look at all of your options first. Was rook takes d8 white's only option to trade pieces?
Nope.
Look at white's bishop. White could have played bishop takes d8. White trades a bishop worth 3 points for a rook worth 5 points. Remember, it is usually a good idea to capture with your least valuable piece first. Let's say black recaptures with the rook. White now has the chance to trade rooks, 5 points for 5 points. Is this a good trade for white? You might think it's just even, but remember this idea. When you are ahead in material, it's good to trade pieces. When you are behind in material, you should avoid trades and keep the position complicated.
Makes sense.
Since white is up material, this is a good idea to trade rooks. White now has a much better endgame. White is up a rook for a bishop and has an extra pawn. Now that you've learned the value of the pieces, let's see if you can use these values to decide whether or not to trade pieces.
All right, let's do it.
Let's practice capturing the most valuable pieces. Your rook can capture the black queen, 9 points, or the black bishop, for 3 points. Good choice. The queen is definitely worth more than the bishop.
Yeah.
Would you like to capture the knight, 3 points, or the rook, 5 points?
5.
That's a great move. White goes from behind to ahead in one move. White has 2 possible captures here. Which one is best?
Well, okay, so it's not, I can really either do the knight to the bishop or the rook to the a5 square. So obviously 3 is worth more than 1.
Well done. White wins material and has a great position. Do you want to capture the black queen or the black rook? Check to see if either piece is defended.
What it's saying is that if I take the white queen here to take that, it would be a queen exchange, yes, but then the black pawn would just take it. Versus the rook here. And basically, it cannot be taken back. So, believe.
Good choice. White wins a rook and should win the game.
Should. If I don't make any bad moves, right?
White has 2 possible captures. Which one is best?
Oh, man. Well, that would be the closer one, right? But no.
Well done. White has a great position.
Right. So that's basically the value. Remember, pawns 1, knights or bishops are 3, rook is 5, queen is 9, and the king is the game. The catch on the bishops and the knights are if it's what's called an open game, where there are a few pieces so that they can move across the board, generally the bishops are better. But if it's a closed game, I mean, there's a lot of pieces on the board, and you're not trading off, knights can be a lot better at that point. Just a little flash for you.
Each turn you will want to consider your option and your opponent's options. You'll want to pay particular attention to checks, captures, and threats.
Makes sense. Oh, I gotta hit play on it.
Now that you've learned how to move, to capture, to check, and checkmate, as well as do the special moves in chess like castling and en passant, it's time for you to feel what it's like in a real game. In a real game, nobody is there to tell you what to move. You have to think and decide, what is the
Don't let that intimidate you.
right move? Should I move a piece, or can I capture something? Should I castle, or try to promote one of my pawns? This is where the thinking part of chess comes in, and you have to try and decide what your best move is. The only way to do this is by looking at the board and considering both your options and your opponent's possible plans, and then trying to decide which move improves your position the most. Sometimes the right move will jump right out at you. Rook h8, checkmate. At other times, you'll have absolutely no idea what the best move is. Let's see if you can find a good move in each of the following positions. Black is currently up 3 pawns, so Black decides to offer a trade of queens, thinking it will be easier to win the game without having to deal with White's queen. Black didn't consider what the queen was doing on the 8th rank. Can you find White's best move? The Black queen gave up protection of the back rank and forgot to ask what checks White has in the position. White only has 1 check, but it's checkmate.
Yeah.
If you found queen e8 checkmate, great job. This checkmate is known as a back rank checkmate. In this position, after rook a1 check, it looks like Black is about to deliver a back rank checkmate. What is White to do?
Use the bishop.
Well, if White decides to block with rook e1, notice that doesn't help because after rook takes e1, it's checkmate. Let's look a little closer. Can you find another White piece that can help us deal with the check?
Yeah.
If you found the move bishop takes a1, great job. The bishop moves all the way from the other side of the board to come to the rescue, capturing the checking piece. Remember, if you can capture a checking piece, this can often be the best way to get out of check. In this position, what do you think is White's best move? If you're thinking rook a8 delivering a back rank checkmate, you have to remember it's not just your moves you have to consider. We also have to figure out what is our opponent doing. In this position, White's best move is also White's only move because notice, White is in check. And in this position, White must deal with the check first and play king h1. Now Black has to be careful and deal with White's threat on the next turn. In this position, can you find White's best move? Notice that we can capture a pawn with rook takes e4, but then Black is able to do the same thing with knight takes a7. Remember, when you find a good move, always look for a better move. Don't forget about your pawn on a7. It's 1 move away from reaching the 8th rank. Do you remember what happens when a pawn reaches the other side of the board?
Queen, baby.
That's right, the pawn gets a promotion. Notice the newly promoted queen puts the Black king into check and threatens the knight all at the same time. After king f7, queen takes c6 wins the knight. It takes time and practice to find the best move. Now it's your turn to continue practicing finding the best move.
All right. Remember, this is all about building the logic, right? Because right now, when we start the game, you have tons of pieces on the board. You may not know which one to do, right? And it's a little early if you're having to learn. It's a little early to be worried about opening games.
How should White escape the check?
Well, there's only one way. I could move the king over here to h1, but there's a better move.
Excellent. White captures the checking piece and wins an entire queen. White's queen is in danger. How can you move the queen to safety and win the game?
Man, and win the game. The pressure's on. Yes.
Great job delivering checkmate. Normally, we would develop more pieces, but White can already win material. What should you capture?
All right, so it wants me to win material.
Good idea. White already has a material advantage. How should White escape the check? Good choice. The knight is defended by the king, so White keeps a material advantage.
Now, if I would have moved the rook down, he would have just taken it. That's why it didn't work.
White wishes the Black king would be in the h8 corner, so White could deliver a checkmate. Can you find White's best move in this position? Fantastic. The knight escapes the bishop's attack and forces black's king into the corner. Can you find white's winning move? Great job delivering checkmate.
Yeah. Just that simple, guys. But basically, yeah. So the idea again is to, in this case, on these examples, right? The best case it was showing you was always checkmate, right? But of course, that doesn't always happen, right? And so sometimes it's about clearing boards, um, trying to protect some squares. There are other things to learn, but again, we're keeping it basic right now.
Every square in chess has a name, with vertical files from AH and horizontal ranks from 1-8. Each move is written with a letter for the piece and the square it moves to. Watch the video for more.
In order to get better at chess, you will need to learn notation, which is often referred to as the language of chess. Every square on the chessboard has a name, which is actually just its coordinates. As we mentioned before, each column is called a file, and each row is called a rank. Every file in chess is given a letter, starting with the letter A on the left side of the board and going all the way to the letter H on the right. Every rank is given a number, starting with 1 on the white side of the board and going up to the number 8 on the black side of the board. Each square is named by its coordinate pair. Let's meet some of the squares. This square in the lower left-hand corner is known as A1. Notice we identify it with the letter first and the number second. Let's take a look and see where the E file meets with the fourth rank. Notice the arrows point at E4, so this square is known as E4. Let's draw a diagonal starting from A1 and go all the way up the board. Notice we land on the H8 square, and in between these squares we see B2, C3, D4, E5, F6, and G7. Together, this is known as the A1 to H8 diagonal, because the diagonal begins on A1 and ends on H8. Now that you've learned how to label each square on the chessboard, it's time to learn the notation of actual chess moves. Each piece has its own letter for chess notation. In this example, the king's letter is a capital K. With white to move, let's say the king is going to move to the E2 square. The way we describe that move is by saying the piece's letter first, which is capital K, then the square it moves to, E2. Remember, a piece always begins with a capital letter, and the square is always lowercase. So after the move, king E2, putting it all together, we say K, E2. Let's say black wants to play king to D7. In this case, it's the same idea. Capital K, lowercase D7. So piece, then square. K, D7. We will use the same idea for all the other pieces. The rook is a capital R, the queen, a capital Q, the bishop, a capital B. The knight, however, is a little bit different. Since the capital K is already used for the king, we use a capital N for the knight. For example, N E6. Finally, you may think that pawns are a capital P. In this case, pawns are only written as the square that they move to. For example, after the move E4, the notation is simply the square the pawn moved to, E4. Now that you've learned the language of chess, it's your turn to practice using chess notation.
All right, we're back. Thank you. So, just in case those didn't get to understand it, if you look at the bottom of the screen here, ultimately,
White wants to march a pawn up the board. Play A5.
So it'll have the letters down here, and then the numbers here. So A5 would be simple up here. A. file and the rank 5.
Great job. You advanced the pawn to a5. White would like to attack the b7 pawn by playing rook d7. How can you do that?
So the rook, obviously we've identified. We're on D, so we just go up to 7.
You got it. White attacks the unprotected b7 pawn. White wants to cut the black king off from the f file. Play rook f2. Great job. White's rook moves to f2.
The reality is if you're playing a game, that way the pawn can march up all the way up to here and promote the queen.
White can move 2 pieces to d8. Play queen d8.
Queen D8.
Great job. You move the queen to d8.
Yes, I did.
White can move 2 knights to e4. Play the knight from the g file to e4, which is knight g e4.
Knight or in G to E4.
Excellent. White moves the knight on the g file to e4 or knight g e4.
So it's just that simple. Now, with practice in reading books like the opening books and stuff, then ultimately you will get better at chess notation. And there was one time I was actually in class, right? Not class, I shouldn't say. I was in competition with some kids. And it was a friendly competition, right? But what ended up happening was there was a couple times he didn't understand how to write it down. And so basically we just shared notes. Probably no in a real serious tournament play, but again, we were having fun, and he's like, "Oh yeah, race." Yeah. Anyway, so don't be too intimidated if you don't know it all in the beginning. It's okay. We'll continue on going further. We're gonna play a mini game.
Watch the video for a complete game of chess played with all moves explained.
That means there's not going to be that many moves, probably.
You know the rules and how to play, but now it's time to see the ideas you have learned put into action in an actual game. In this game, we'll see how 2 pieces working together can be a powerful force, and that a king surrounded by pieces isn't always safe. Let's take a look. White begins the game with e4, controlling the center and opening up lines for the queen and light-squared bishop. Black plays c6, a move we haven't seen yet. The idea is to prepare the move d5 on the next turn and attack the strong pawn on e4. White plays d4, controlling more space in the center and also opening up the dark-squared bishop. Black strikes back in the center with d5, threatening to capture the pawn on e4 on the very next move. When the opponent threatens to take one of our pieces, it's natural to feel worried. Remember, it's okay to make even trades, such as a pawn for a pawn. What you don't want is to give away your pieces for nothing. In this situation, White could push the pawn forward with e5, White could capture the pawn on d5, or, as in the game, protect the pawn and develop a piece with knight to c3. After d takes e4, knight takes e4, White's knight recaptures the pawn and moves directly into the center. Black now plays knight to d7, developing a knight and also preparing the next move, knight g to f6, with the idea that if the knight gets captured, Black is ready to recapture the knight, like that. The drawback to this move is the light-squared bishop is blocked, and also notice Black's king has no moves. We'll take a look and see if that becomes a problem. White plays bishop to c4, activating the bishop to a powerful diagonal, and as you know, pointing at the weakest point in Black's camp, f7. Black plays knight g to f6, attacking White's knight, and White plays knight to g5, avoiding the knight's attack and joining the light-squared bishop in attacking the f7 square. In this position, Black should play e6, blocking the light-squared bishop's path to the f7 square. But black does not have a sense of danger in the position and plays h6, attacking the knight and assuming that it's going to move backwards. Can you find the move that immediately wins the game for white? That's right. Bishop takes f7. White delivers checkmate, threatening to capture the king on the next turn, and notice black's king is surrounded, or should we say smothered, by its own pieces. It cannot escape the attack. You've learned a lot so far. Can you put your ideas into action? Let's prove it in the challenges.
All right, so, basic, real simple game. They don't usually go off that easily, but I like the concept that it gives.
Let's start the game by advancing the e-pawn into the center.
E-pawn.
Great start. Black has played the Scandinavian defense, which allows you to capture a pawn. How can you do it? Well played.
Boom.
The only way for black to recapture is to bring the queen out early where white can attack it, as we will see in the next challenge.
Okay, so I like how it kind of gives you a review.
How can white develop a piece and attack the black queen?
Oh, man.
Nice move. How can you centralize the other knight?
Get back. You don't know me like that. That's fun.
Well played. White has developed both knights while all of black's pieces are still on the back rank. How should white develop another minor piece to control the center?
Well, can't move that bishop, right? Can't move the rooks. Don't want to move the queen. I guess it's asking me about this. Now, what I do not know is, does it want me to control this part of the center or this part of the center? But based on the video we just watched,
Nice move.
I'm going with that.
White continues to develop and is ready to possibly castle soon. How can white centralize the f3 knight and threaten a quick checkmate?
Let's talk about this knight. And again, we watched the video. So we are basically attacking that f7 square again.
There's a better move. Try again and look for the perfect central square to place the f3 knight.
Ah, see? Sometimes we have to pay attention. Center.
Great move. We will see the end of the game in the next challenge.
Sometimes.
Black's last move was a huge mistake and white can now win the game. Try to find a checkmate.
So because the knight was protecting this square and that square, he can't escape it.
A quick win and a well-played game.
Just that simple, ladies and gentlemen.
Stalemate occurs when there are no possible moves, but neither king is in check. Stalemate is a draw, even if one of the players has many more pieces on the board.
Let me go to the video.
There is another kind of mate on the board called stalemate. Stalemate is what happens when your king is not in check, but you also have no other legal move on the board. And when this happens, it's a draw and nobody wins. You might be absolutely winning your game and about to checkmate the opponent's king, but if you fall into stalemate, it's a draw. This is best explained with some examples. In this position with white to move, the game would be a stalemate, because white's only piece, the king, does not have any legal squares to move to, and white is not in check. In this position, let's say white plays queen to c2. The queen gets one square closer to the king, but notice black's king is not in check and black does not have a legal move in this position.
Boom.
The position is a stalemate. Remember, in chess, you're never forced to make an illegal move, so black cannot put the king onto a square where it would be captured. In this position, can you find a better move for white? White can actually win the game in just one move after queen b2 checkmate. Remember, your opponent can never be in stalemate if they are in check. In this position, black looks doomed. The king is trapped in the corner. White is ready to deliver checkmate on the next move, and black is down lots of material. However, chess is a game of many opportunities, And even when things look really bad, you might have the chance to save the game, or at least draw. Notice that since Black's king does not have any legal moves, if Black's queen disappeared from the board, it would be a stalemate if it were Black to move. In this position, can you find a way to make Black's queen disappear and create a stalemate?
Take the knight.
If you found queen takes h2 check, great job. White must deal with the check, and the only way to get out of the check is to capture the Black queen. Now the only remaining piece is the Black king, and since Black's king does not have any legal squares, and Black is not in check, the game is a stalemate. What a save by Black.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this position. If White played the move queen to c7, it's not...
Okay, so real quick, going back to that one. If he would have taken that knight there, what would have happened? The bishop wouldn't necessarily taken the queen, and he could have finished the game off by taking the rook over here to a7, winning the game. Again, it's little moves like that that can throw you off. Okay, continuing on.
What a save by Black. Let's take a look at this position. If White played the move queen to c7, it's not a very wise move because White, first of all, could have won the game immediately with queen to b7 checkmate, but also queen to c7 traps Black's king. But does that mean it's a stalemate?
No.
Not in this position, because notice Black has another piece. Black could play the move h3, allowing White to correct the mistake from the last move and deliver checkmate with queen to b7. Notice if we added another pawn, just this pawn on h3, the position would now be a stalemate with Black to move. Now that you've learned about stalemate, remember to stay alert and avoid it when you're winning, and when you're losing, keep your eyes open for the opportunity to save the game with stalemate.
Okay, so for those who don't know, when you get stalemate in competition, it basically goes half and half point, right? 1 point's the winner, 0 points the loser. And so if you get a stalemate, it's half and half. If you draw a game, it's half and half. And in a competition, that's better than the loss in point system. So it didn't explain it very well, but that's okay. Hopefully that's a little bit better of explanation in case you ever decide to go to competition.
What can White play to end the game in stalemate?
What can White play to end the game of stalemate?
Good idea. Black's pieces can't move, so the game ends in stalemate. White looks doomed, but can you find a way to save the game with stalemate? Great job. White's pawn delivers check. Since White's king does not have any legal moves, no matter what Black does next, White will save the game with stalemate.
Simple as that.
Is the position stalemate? If it's not, find a legal move for White.
Well, he can't move here because of the rook. He can't move here due to the pawn. He can't move here due to the king. So it would in fact be a stalemate, except for this pawn right here. It can still move.
Good work. Black won't be able to stop the b7 pawn from promoting.
That's actually true as well.
Black's pawn looks dangerous, but White has one move that stops it from queening and likely leads to a draw by stalemate. What should you play? Nice move. The only move that Black can play that would keep the pawn defended results in an immediate stalemate. Other moves allow White to capture the pawn. Either way, the game ends in a draw.
Shake your hands. It's over.
Black has an extra pawn, but White can end the game with an immediate stalemate. How should you do it? Well done. Black has no legal moves and the game ends in a draw.
All right, last lesson for this.
Chess games can end in draws because of stalemate, an agreement between the players, 3 repetitions of the same position, or 50 moves without a pawn move or a capture.
Or the video.
Stalemate is just one of the possible ways to end the game in a tie. Another way is to simply agree to a draw. This might happen if neither player can see a way to victory. One person offers the draw, and the other can accept or decline. Another way to get a draw is if the exact same position is repeated 3 times. After 3 repetitions, either player can claim a draw when it is their turn to move. Or, if you're playing online, a draw will automatically be called after 3 repetitions. Another way to draw is if neither player has enough pieces to checkmate, like lone king versus lone king. You'll learn more about this later. Finally, you can also draw if 50 pairs of moves have been played on the board without any captures or pawn moves. This keeps you from dying of boredom as you and your opponent move your rooks back and forth forever. Now it's your turn to practice drawn positions.
Okay, guys, so when you're playing somebody in real life, you kind of laugh, you chuckle, you moving your pieces, ha 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 ha. Okay, and then that's the point when somebody gets bored, you want to draw. Most of the time they say yes. Very seldom you're going to play that for 50 times, I promise you. Unless somebody just wants to be really uber annoying.
We have entered a completely drawn endgame. Can you find the move that immediately forces a draw for white? Great job!
Boom.
The trade of queens immediately draws the position as there is no checkmating material on the board. It looks like white is losing, but can you find a way to block the position so no pawn moves can be made by either side? Excellent. The position is now blocked. No pawn moves can be played, and the kings cannot attack any pawns. No progress can be made, so the game is a draw.
Simple as that.
White is down a rook for a pawn, but the pawn is 1 move away from promoting. Can you find a trick that forces a draw for white? Fantastic! White promotes to a queen, forcing the king to capture the queen and leave the rook unprotected. Go ahead and draw the game by capturing the rook. Great job! You saved the game and forced a draw. White's rook is under attack, and black is ready to promote the pawn into a queen. Can you find a sacrifice that forces a draw for white?
I've actually never seen the king get all the way down the board like this.
Wonderful! The white rook sacrifices itself for black's pawn. A king and a bishop cannot create a checkmate without other pieces, so the game is a draw. White is down material, but can force a repetition by making a series of checks that black can't escape. How should you do it? Great start. Which safe queen check will force black's king back? Well done. Black's king must return to g8 and white can repeat the position with queen checks until the game is drawn.
All right, guys. So you made it to the very end of the video. Thank you for watching this. I hope you have learned some stuff. Again, I hope this has been educational and entertaining for you as well. Again, I am Chris, your chess journeyman, with your partner, if you will, in learning this game. And I look forward to seeing y'all in the next video. Y'all have a good night or day, depending upon when you're watching this.